A few weeks ago, someone threw highly corrosive acid directly at Andrie Yunus. He's a human rights advocate known for taking on legal cases regardless of a victim's background or political affiliation. The attack left him in intensive care with severe burns covering over 24% of his body, alongside extensive damage to his corneas. And investigators traced the specific ambush directly back to 4 active military intelligence officers belonging to Bayas TNI. Before he was hospitalized, Yunus was actively fighting to reform how soldiers are prosecuted. He had even taken his case to the Constitutional Court, arguing that the current legal framework consistently fails to deliver justice for civilian victims. Because his attackers wear a military uniform, they won't be tried in a normal civilian courtroom. Instead, they are being processed through the exact same closed-door military justice system Yunus has spent years trying to expose. This setup creates a massive legal loophole. It effectively insulates military personnel from the very civilian laws they are supposed to uphold, shielding them from public scrutiny when they commit crimes. You can see how this protection works by looking at how the initial investigation was handled. The civilian police held an open press conference, showed CCTV footage of the incident, and clearly displayed the faces of the suspects they apprehended. The military's response looked completely different. They held their own briefing, but refused to show any faces or full names. They only released a list of initials and ranks, keeping the actual identities of the soldiers entirely hidden. The two institutions can't even agree on the basic facts. The police announce 2 suspects as the primary executors of the attack, while the military claims there are 4 suspects in total. Looking at the data, the initials provided by the military don't even match the initials given by the police. When the authorities contradict each other on how many people were involved and who they actually are, it makes it incredibly difficult to track if anyone is actually facing real consequences. This complete lack of synchronization between branches of government highlights a major structural flaw. The military justice apparatus operates on its own terms, keeping the civilian public entirely in the dark. In many countries, military courts are strictly reserved for internal military infractions, things like desertion or insubordination. But in Indonesia, if a soldier commits a general criminal offense against a civilian, they are still tried internally by the military. We have seen exactly how this plays out in the past. Take an arson case in North Sumatra, where an entire family was targeted, leaving only 1 survivor. 3 civilian accomplices were given 20 years to life in open court. The military suspect involved? His trial disappeared behind closed doors, and the process stalled indefinitely. Or consider the case of Lenny Demanek. Her 15-year-old son was killed, and the perpetrator was an active military member. After going through the military court system, the soldier received a sentence of just 10 months. When civilians face decades in prison for a crime, while soldiers serve less than a year for manslaughter, it creates 2 entirely separate tiers of justice. It tells the public that civilian lives carry less weight when the offender is in uniform. We are currently navigating a fragile global economy, facing shifting trade routes and complex energy markets. A state relies on internal stability to weather these periods. When intelligence officers violently attack a citizen, it actively undermines that baseline stability. This pattern of aggression matches evidence from a fact-finding team Yunus joined last year, which uncovered military actors operating directly within civilian demonstrations. The team documented military intelligence officers handing out money to agitators to provoke mobs. Following those clashes, a government ministry even began circulating a draft plan to implement martial law. To deflect from these findings, a massive disinformation campaign flooded social media. Anonymous accounts began spinning wild theories, suggesting the acid attack was actually orchestrated by foreign billionaires like George Soros to destabilize the nation. Unchecked, heavily armed elements operating within the state's own borders represent a severe threat to national security, particularly when they function entirely outside standard legal oversight. A truly secure nation cannot exist if its everyday citizens are afraid of the people tasked with protecting them. Closing this legal loophole is the only way forward. If a soldier attacks a civilian, they must face a civilian court, out in the open.